Live at 5, brought to you by Foreman Watson Holtree, FWHlegal.com. Stephen A. Turner, Vic Evans here, and it's never a bad time to talk football, right?
No, never.
A lot of people are coming off the heels of the world. It was a pretty well-rounded show. We got World Baseball Classic, high school baseball, get a little college football in the mix before we wrap it up with college basketball. So, and maybe a little
touch it
in there, maybe a little Lamar in a minute. But spring practice started up. The big news coming out of Kentucky would be Vito Tisdale dismissed from the team, and that's a blow. You know, this guy had about 10 second chances and just didn't get it done.
Yeah, it's never worked out there. You know, you had the whole incident there where he was suspended, or they were arrested, and all those charges ended up dropping. But he missed all those games. But there's been other problems with Vito there too. So yeah, it's a loss because I know the secondary didn't play bad last year, but I think he was somebody that was penciled in to, at the safety position or as a nickel corner that was going to give them, time in the secondary. So yeah, this is a big loss.
I don't know if you feel I'm not the big time Kentucky football. I grew up Notre Dame.
I'm a Notre Dame guy,
but I still follow Kentucky really close. My whole family's big Kentucky, and of course all my friends. But does it not feel like the hype around Kentucky it just feels like since Liam Cohen's back, that you have this expectation that even though we lost Will Levis, he's going to be a top 10 pick more than likely. You got Leary coming in.
I think Leary helps out a lot too.
But Cohen really helps.
Yes, Cohen does. He was so successful in his first stint here. And I think you could see last year, with the problems they had with Scangarella and the offense, the play calling, the lack of offensive line, you would have liked to see what Levis could have done with the weapons he had. Now, the thing about it was a lot of those weapons were young. And I don't think it's just Cohen coming back and Leary. I think Cohen's at the top of the list. And then Leary, but now you've got Brown back again, and you've got, Dekel Crowder, they say, has been tearing up spring practice earlier. And then you got the Douglas star, Dane Key. With those three, and then Robinson's back this year, maybe the greatest wide receiver room that the University of Kentucky's ever had.
It's up there.
I don't know where he would go from top to bottom.
And it's one. I believe it just a very small sample size. But Cohen talking about Leary's accuracy. Glowing about it. Of course, he's not going to say, "Well, my quarterback's inaccurate."
Can't hit the broad side of the barn.
I don't know what we're going to do. We're pretty much screwed at that position.
But no, he was accurate at NC State, and he was a big time. This is a guy that's a big time quarterback at NC State, and that's what you're going to get sometimes with these transfer portals. I'm curious, because him at Kentucky is going to be huge. And then you got Hartman at Notre Dame. Get these guys that were huge ACC quarterbacks now going one to the SEC and one going to Notre Dame, and see if that can translate.
Cohen coming from the NFL. If Leary has a big, this is another potential Kentucky quarterback that's going to be a first-round prospect.
And if you do that, let's face it, Kentucky, the one thing that Kentucky has missed on lately is recruiting quarterbacks to be the next guy. But with the transfer portal, Levis coming in with Cohen, there's an NFL guy, and Levis takes off. You kind of miss with Scangarella, but you bring Cohen back and you get Leary. And Leary comes, we talked about what he did at NC State. He comes, has a big year in the SEC with there. Then you don't always have to worry about recruiting a high school quarterback, which hasn't been great. You can go out and get, it becomes a destination spot for quarterbacks at other places that have an eye on the NFL, is to come play at UK and for Liam Cohen.
I agree. Yeah. And I think, I think Cohen coming back, you just wonder how long it's going to be before he gets a head coaching job somewhere. I thought his past was in the NFL.
I think part of the thing when he came back was he gave him, I think it was 2 years or 3.
Sure. Yeah,
I don't think this was a stop
up and go.
Right, I don't think this is a stopgap thing. I think he will be there, but I do think, Steve, he will be. And I always thought it would be in the NFL too, but I think he's going to be a big-time D1 college coach at some point.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think he has NFL head coaching potential at some point. I know our good friend Jagger Burton, we talked about Frederick Douglass products. He's moving over to center.
Yes.
The offensive line was terrible last year for Kentucky. They had to replace Fortner, and they never really did. The interior line was just awful last year. And Burton moving over there, it's something to monitor, right, Jagger?
Yeah, definitely
guard to center.
And I think this is probably a good move for him. He has struggled at times at guard. I think this is probably a better move for Burton to play center.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. And then up the way a little bit, you had Jeff Brom. They opened spring practice yesterday. I dove in. Obviously, I'm not super familiar with the Louisville Cardinals roster, but Jack Plummer coming in, right, went from Purdue to Cal, now to Louisville. and comes back to Brom, and got a lot of a lot of hype around the Louisville media yesterday. I know Jawar Jordan, the running back, won, a lot of hype around him. Skill position players, receivers. You got Georgia State transfer Thrash. Showed out a little bit yesterday. Of course, we're talking about 7-on-7s.
Right.
Shells, there's no pads or anything. And then William Foles, the freshman, drew a lot of praise. Those are some names to watch on the offensive side of the ball for Louisville.
Listen, I think the hype right now in Louisville for Louisville football with Jeff Brom there is probably as big as it's been in a long time. Now, I think he will be very successful there. I do think it may take just a little bit of time, against Kentucky, because you just don't. When you went and you watched Louisville and Kentucky play, the eye test told you that Kentucky was going to dominate the trenches on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, you can't get dominated.
And they have.
Yeah.
Now, it's a little different in the ACC. But I do think I think in the long run that Brom will have Louisville back towards the top of the ACC. I mean, it's not a great football conference.
In 1 year, you think?
I don't think in 1 year. I think there'll be, I think down there you're going to have, Clemson, Florida State has, made some strides down there. Maybe the U. But I do think, give him a year or two, and I do think Louisville is going to be a team that's going to be a contender in the ACC. Now, will they ever get over the Clemson hump? I don't know, but I do think Brom, you can see the way they've recruited in-state and how they've opened back up into Louisville, which I think is big for them.
Huge. It had to happen.
And with what they're doing in NIL, the way Louisville's really worked the NIL, I think he will have this back into a nice, big-time competitive program sooner rather than later.
It'd be more fun to talk about.
Yes, it makes the UK-Louisville game even better.
You don't have to poop on Satterfield for a whole segment. And when you're talking about the Cards, you can actually talk about what they've done on the field instead of what they're going to do with their coach. But speaking of Louisville quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson chatter continues. Do you think that is this more than likely Lamar going to happen after the draft? Do you think this is a situation where teams will wait and then see what happens, how the draft plays out before?
I do, but I also think, and here's the thing, Steve. When I was digging into this, there are so many teams here that truly believe that no matter what you do, the Ravens aren't going to let him go. And they don't want to do the legwork for the Ravens. We talked about, I said that the Ravens, if I was the Ravens, I would go out and do the non-exclusive tender. One, it's a lot cheaper money. And two, it allows other people to set the market. But what happens is a lot of these other NFL teams are like, well, we don't want to set his market.
Well, there's a lot of chatter coming out now that Lamar is so toxic with the Ravens.
Yeah, I don't know how. I don't know
if you can fix that.
Here's the thing. I don't know if somebody else doesn't offer him, sign him to a tender. And I'm not sure the Ravens would match if they do, but I think teams are afraid of that. But if nobody does sign him to a tender, I don't think he goes back. He can't go back and play under that tag with the Ravens, can he?
I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think that he would. That's the thing.
He didn't play in the playoff game. Why would you go play in the regular season game?
But you hear a lot of contract rumors, right? Oh, Lamar wants this. He's got to have it fully guaranteed. He's got to have this. He's got to have that. Lamar, I think at this point, Lamar kind of is wondering if that's being released by the Ravens, because he's came out and said, I don't know how anybody knows what I want. No one's even talked to me.
Well, here's my question, though.
He's representing himself,
right? And I think that's not good. I think this goes back to a mistake he made, and I understood why he did it. Under the rules, you save a lot of money, and a lot of things were cut and dry. Now, I'm sure he has somebody, a lawyer, an agent will look over it, but you're not giving away 3 to 7%. So I understood why he did it, but I do think in situations like what he's in right now, not having an agent really hurts.
I think it hurts, yeah.
But here's what I also say. I know Lamar comes out and says, I don't know. Yes, there are times teams release this stuff to make a player look bad or get the narrative out there. But a lot of times, too, there's still a lot of truth to that. I would be hard-pressed to think that the numbers that we heard about the Ravens, but it had to be 100, he turned down things because it wasn't 100% guaranteed. I want to say there's a lot of facts in that also.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that it's going to take one now. Maybe he's changing his tune because he knows he's not going to get
right.
The
Yeah. I'm talking about in the past with the contract with the Ravens.
It's possible. The Ravens are still the betting favorite to land him, but keep an eye. The Titans right behind.
Here's the thing:
the Ravens there. The Patriots right behind them. Those are some intriguing landing spots.
If somebody doesn't sign him to a tender, I see him holding out for Baltimore. I don't see this.
That would hurt I mean, at the end of the day, the league would be better if Lamar could find.
I agree with that.
And I hope that it all pans out.
You still want the Vikings?
Vikings are fine. There's just no way financially. I don't think. I mean, we'll see. They're back there. They're the highest ranked. If the Ravens say, okay, you're not going to give him to an AFC team, we'll give him to an NFC team. Vegas says the Vikings is the top NFC team.
Once again, it's a lot of money you got to spend on a quarterback and 2 first-rounders.
Is he a guy? We're spending too much time.
All right, we'll get out of here.
Is he a guy, quickly, just yes or no, is he a guy that you can pay that much money to that can elevate you to a Super Bowl, or is he a guy that with that much pay can't win it because he doesn't have enough pieces around him?
I'm going to go with the second one. I don't think he's a Mahomes or those guys that you can pay that much.
I think Mahomes and Burrow is about it. Maybe Josh Allen's right there on the borderline.
I'd put him in there with Dak, that kind of.
Oh, hold on.
No, hold on. There's a group there with Lamar.
Dak's way behind.
There's Lamar and there's Dak and there's some other guys there that are going to get the money that they're not.
Maybe a Herbert, in that area. I can give you that.
Well, Herbert's still on his rookie deal, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. I'm just meaning when it comes time to pay him.
Right.
You get me on NFL, we're going to lose out on Rick. We'll talk about that next. Our hypothetical conversation. Still got a chance to get it in. 270-903-0389 on the Kicking It text line. We'll talk about Rick Pitino next, live at 5, 102.7.